Hello there, Steve here in Sydney of the Gnosis website truebluehealer.com, where in just 20 minutes you can get physical evidence of the activation of your own divine spark, and that will be followed up by, within about 5 days, some vivid messaging dreams. Later on you'll get an internal mentoring voice, which you're all supposed to have, by the way. It's called being awakened. People are born blind like kittens, except their blindness is internal, so that most people don't really know what they are. Once this divine spark is activated, you get an inkling, an idea of what you really are, and it's the most exciting experience for anyone. truebluehealer.com, do the beginner's tour, just 20 minutes, and it's all free. Soon to become a phone app. I've got my fingers crossed. Alex Jones has just announced, he was reading out the other day, that the EU government in Brussels is threatening the 4 dissident states in Europe with force if they refuse to accept their fake refugee/migrants in vast numbers, because the EU, the Brussels people, don't like the idea that these little states won't participate in their own genocide. If large numbers of these fake refugees were dropped into these 4 countries, it would ruin them, because they can't afford to support low IQ'd people who are unteachable from the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. Low IQ'd, unteachable and unemployable. They just, these fledgling little countries who just got out from under communism can't afford to take on millions of basically dole-bludgers who will proliferate, having vast numbers of children with low IQ. This is a known fact. It seems to me that we just can't mix high IQ and low IQ societies together in the same country. It seems all so much common sense to me. But what got my attention was the fact that the Brussels is finally saying they're going to use force against these 4 countries. It's like a threat, you see. And you start thinking, well, if they're going to start using military force or something, what are they going to do? Are they going to use buses to drop in over the border, the borderless Europe? Are they going to drop these migrants by force at gunpoint into these 4 nations, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia and Poland? Are they just going to bust them all in by force? The EU's got the resources. It's really very easy because these countries are very weak. It would be easy to occupy the 4 state capitals all on the same day and install puppet regimes, quisling regimes. Don't we all know about that? The problem with that would be that it would be such a bad look, and it would be the end of the EU, because it would be blatantly publicising the fact that the EU is simply World War II Plan B to occupy Europe. In case you don't know, the EU plan came out of 1942 in a book published by German Industrialists. 1942, they realised they were losing the war, and they published a book in Spain saying that if they lost the war militarily, they would take Europe politically and economically, which included a common currency. This was all written up in 1942. While the war was raging. So the EU is just a continuation, it's Plan B of World War II, for a handful of German aristocrats, industrialist barons, oligarchs, to dominate Europe. And the president, what's his name? Jean-Claude Juncker, is an aristocrat of the military-industrial complex. His family name produced the bombers that used to drop a lot of bombs on England, the Junkers aircraft, you see. They made all kinds of weapons, made a fortune, and they think they are born to rule. No matter what's happening, they should be ruling, in charge of everything, you see. So maybe they're looking forward to a lot of warfare. They might reduce the population, I don't know, but it's really The EU is having the opposite effect now to what it was first sold as. Supposed to stop war between France and Germany, it is now beginning to promote European warfare. The EU, the Brussels leaders, unelected leaders, are threatening war. It is truly amazing, and I'm surprised it's taken so long, but political and economic sanctions and fines and being prevented from voting and that sort of thing in conferences can only go so far. In such a military conflict where 4 capitals could be occupied on the same day because Europe's got overwhelming resources against these tiny little countries, what could they do in their own defence? Well, the answer, they don't have many options. I think one of them would be plainclothes infiltration of Brussels and Strasbourg, the 2 Euro capitals, and just start eliminating the elites. I've advocated eliticide before, and I think we could save the world a lot of suffering by culling the elites. Basically, that's how they talk about us. They talk about culling the whole human race so they can get a good night's sleep and everything's so much more convenient for them. And we should really get rid of 90% of the human race. Well, I suggest we could do ourselves a favour, that is humanity, and cull the elites and keep culling them as they self-elect, self-choose. We might have to become more alert to that, because a lot of it's been done by stealth over centuries. Robber barons have become our masters from medieval European times, and they think they can play God. I mean, Bill Gates does it. He says we're on a mission from God to do vaccine-related reproductive hygiene, which is about really genocide, isn't it? So why can't we declare war on the elites doing this? The 4 countries threatened by Euro force would have to do this first. Have you noticed the elites seldom take casualties? Can you think of the last time anyone in Europe, in any one of the VIPs, was attacked by terrorists? Strange, isn't it, that European terrorism is only against the common average street people? Not one European MP, not one national MP has been killed by terrorists. Not one leading public servant, not one professor in a university has been assassinated. Strange, isn't it? I think it's because we're all so civilised. That's been our problem. We may have to become a little less civilised in order to preserve our great civilisation against the wrecking onslaught of the elites. We may have to face that. We may have to face it, people. I don't think the world is a depleted place at all. I think we have wonderful resources, and our creativity never ceases to astonish me. We've got something like now 6 billion people in the world have handheld phones, and soon via cryptocurrencies they'll all be able to do online banking. 2 billion people in the world don't yet have access to bank accounts, and thus borrowing money, getting into the modern world. So that's a very exciting thing. Today is the best time to be alive. You've got a handheld computer in your pocket that's 100 times better than what they used to land on the moon with. So in response to that, the elites want to kill us all off. Yet we are the creativity, we provide it. We produce the ideas, the innovations endlessly, and that's what's made our civilization great in the Western world. But still the elites just go, well, we have to eliminate everybody because we're elites. We just have to do it. So we always have these tyrannical wannabe people who just want to a fixation with Megadeth and turning the whole world into a giant gulag archipelago. The Rothschilds are well entrenched in that, but they're on the run currently in response to Donald Trump's recent executive order caused 200 CEOs to resign from corporations around the world because of his simple human trafficking legislation. That if you're caught, if you're involved, if you're suspected of serious human trafficking and or corruption, all your goods can be taken by the US Treasury wherever you are in the world, because you are inevitably intertwined with American infrastructure. No one's contested it. No one in the left wing have said this is an evil thing to do. Nobody in CNN is protesting President Trump's executive order to take all the goods and assets from corrupt people. Strange, isn't it? Positive things happen include a resurgence of traditional Christianity in those 4 little Visigoth countries in Europe. 80% of Polish people, when they're asked now, say they're Christian and proud of it. Do you remember that secularism had become the dominant ethos in Europe? That religion-free, secular, atheistic society was the norm, brought to us by the professors in university churning out thousands and thousands of Marxists who think that religion's the opium of the people, but actually I think it's more like revolution is the opium of the intellectuals. And an interesting thing about revolution and Marxism is that it appeals, it grabs a lot of intellectuals. I saw a video the other day by none other than Thomas Sowell. He's a renowned intellectual economist who also does he's written a lot of books, and he's done a lot of commentaries on society generally about how wrong our perceptions are, and he constantly shows us statistics saying that black people were actually better off before 1930 and stuff like that. And their living standards gone down, their crime rates gone up, their divorce and suicide rates gone up since state-funded benefits began in the 1930s. So which is a bit of a takedown. You wouldn't expect that, would you? I mean, you go, oh golly, I thought all that stuff would help them, but it doesn't. Thomas Sowell himself, now a very forthright counter-Marxist, he was a Marxist himself. He finished Yale and came out a Marxist, a raving Marxist. He's a particularly bright fellow, yet he was suckered in too. So it's almost like revolution and Marxism is the opium of the intellectuals. That's one of our big problems. There's got to be a warning put in all the Marxist books saying this idiocracy that you're wanting to join can destroy you and the world around you, and it's a dangerous drug that eats away at society. There's got to be warnings put in Marxist books. Look at the death toll that this book has caused. That should be on the first page of every Marxist book. Also the modernists and all those sorts of people, the postmodernists, those French intellectuals. The business about intellectuals being utterly seduced and possessed by Marxism it seems to attack a lot of feminists too. And there's even stories coming out of Germany now that some feminists are leaving Germany when they see the disaster they have turned Germany into. It's become a Mad Max country, and it can only get worse. An outspoken feminist recently announced she was leaving Germany because it had become a hellhole with the importation of hundreds of thousands of people who could not mix and were uncivilized. They just couldn't mix and blend in with traditional German society. So her solution was, after 20 years of militating and campaigning to bring in more of these people, she realised she had been completely wrong. Rather like Thomas Sowell, I'll find the video for you where he admits to being a Marxist, that he was seduced by all the books at university, and I think that's a major problem. But there's at least one German feminist leaving the country because of that she's looking down at the ruins she has created by advocating more and more third world low IQ people come in and live and crap all over the streets. and can never learn to use a toilet, that sort of thing, even with pictures on the wall. So the idea that everyone's equal is a Marxist concept, and it's utterly false. We're not all the same. But I think people are best left in their places of origin. And I think immigration itself has got to be looked at as, why should the whole Western world practice free immigration from the rest of the world? Why should they? Who says they should? Well, there's a single ethnic group pushing that. A single ethnic group resulted in the Americans changing their migration policy in 1965. The same ethnic group started in 1975 the notion that Sweden should destroy itself by importing third world low IQ'd people who crap in the streets and will never learn to use toilets. And that's going to introduce an attractive diversity, a new dimension to Swedish life. They can't sort themselves out. They have a feminised government and a feminised army. And I think the only way to help Sweden will be a military intervention from outside to round up those people and put them into some kind of FEMA camp for deportation. And I think the deportation is likely going to be to some paradise in North Africa, leased from Libya or Morocco, something like that. And you can build a city for these people to keep them out of Europe. Perhaps a walled city. It's essentially a prison, but we may have to do that to preserve Europe, which is very much worth preserving, I think. Watching the American scene, I'm sure we're all heartily sick of seeing daily paraded the outpouring of corruption that never seems to have an end. It's so multi-layered. It's wearying, exhausting, trying to get your head around the complexity of it all. That the whole top of the US government is essentially run by organised crime, a communist crime syndicate that's seemingly been going since, well, the 50s. So there's a need to get some people on trial. At the moment they're on a kind of public show trial at the moment where they get ridiculed in alt media and Fox News. But there's got to be some conviction soon, hopefully in Guantanamo Bay, because there's midterm elections coming where Trump's likely to lose one of the houses' control of it in terms of voting. So there's a need to get a few of these people locked away safely in orange suits for all to see on national television. I'm sure Fox News would do that. So that's a survival thing, really, that I think Trump's got to do, though he seems to be 3 steps ahead of everybody. I've seen it propagated now, the idea that he's not a one-man band at all. He was actually put there by the military. They asked him to stand for president, and they're like a kind of counter deep state behind Donald Trump. He has a great admiration for the US military, and they admire him. So they played a role in him getting into power as well. But I just think that there's got to be some jailing soon, because we're all getting exhausted following this outrageous story of the Trump dossier, which is just going on and on and on, round and round and round in circles, like a never-ending dogfight. Yet every day new things come out. Text messages from the FBI. There's 2 people, man and a woman, did 50,000 text messages while they're doing their job, apparently. That's a lot of texting, I think, and a lot of it was extremely anti-Trump. So why haven't they been sacked for wasting company time? It just shows the depth of organised crime is totally operating the FBI at the top. So every day we see this, and it's a kind of trial by public media, which I think is going to precede the real trials at Gitmo. I hope it happens that way, the way we've been told. It's a smart move to take the trials out of the US jurisdiction to Gitmo. So I'm hoping this happens. I hope we can see something this year, because I know we're all worn out. The best news we've got so far is that quite a few of the senior people in this massive conspiracy are wearing anklets for satellite tracking. So that's most noteworthy and a most positive bit of news, but it's really dragging on too long, like a soap opera. We want to see some results, and I know a lot of people are just weary of all this. But 200 CEOs leaving their positions shortly after Trump brought out his executive order tells you that the New World Order, the corporate elites, are shaken to the core by the simple executive order of Donald Trump. That's resoundingly powerful, seismically powerful, and we are told, though I haven't seen much evidence for it, we are told that many elites are evacuating to distant places like Tasmania in New Zealand. I'd like to see some evidence of that. I'd like to enjoy looking at it. We're relying on sort of third-hand reports so far. But anyway, I still think the world right now is a better place to be than it's ever been before. And it's about time we started getting rid of the elites. And I would advocate what Trump said about 12 years ago or something. Was it 2012? He said, death for pedophilia. I think that's a very good anti-corruption measure. A death penalty for pedophilia could be reintroduced. It still exists for treason, by the way. I'm afraid we may have to take a couple of steps back from the modern kumbaya attitude that we all have, that let live and let live and everything, because they want to kill us. The elites want to kill us off. So maybe we've got to take them down first, and to me it seems the most worthy thing to do. Steve here in Sydney, over and out.